I think by now, most of you know I'm a dad of two girls. And like many parents I know, we all signed up our daughters for ballet class when they're 3 or 4, 5 years old. And they're super darling, wearing their leotards and ballet shoes and a pink tutu. And it's always fun seeing them bouncing around on stage, some of them following the choreography and some of them just doing their own thing. For some of the girls, like mine, they end up quitting when they're 6 or 7 years old. Some of them, very few probably actually, go on to be quite serious, doing 6, 7, 8, 12 hours a week of ballet. And they have dreams of getting on stage and dancing for a ballet company. Today we're going to talk to someone who did that. She went from just Saturday afternoon classes with her sister to a little bit more serious and competitive high school ballet to trying out for elite companies all around this country. Today, we're going to talk to someone who has danced with the San Francisco Ballet for over 2 decades, and she's going to talk a little bit about how she got there and what it's like to be there. And so today we're excited to talk to principal dancer Frances Chung. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have another fantastic, well, all of our episodes are fantastic, but today I think we have a extra fantastic episode. A lot of times we have friends that I know who happen to have interesting lives, and then sometimes we have people that I don't know who have extraordinary lives, but today we have the best of both worlds. We have someone that I actually know who has a really extraordinary life. So we're going to talk to Frances today, who dances with the San Francisco Ballet. And coming along is someone, we were supposed to have my student Madison join us, but AP Bio test is tomorrow, so she's cramming for that, and hopefully she's calm and getting everything ready. But we had to bring in another co-host, and this is someone you know. It is Miss San Francisco herself, Catherine Liang. Welcome back, Catherine.
So happy to be back.
Oh man, you're so like when I edit people, a lot of times I have to take out their ums or when they don't speak clearly. But Catherine is so polished and ready for the stage at all times, so it's so easy to edit Catherine. I love having her on the show.
Save all the editing for me.
I know myself. I need all the editing. But yeah, thanks for helping out, Catherine.
Thanks for having me and just leaving no room for error, are we?
No, don't worry. That's the standard, and you got to meet it.
Sounds good.
But yeah, the other reason you're on is because you were a ballet dancer. Or do you still dance?
I used to dance, not anymore though, sadly.
So were you one of the kids in the 3-year-old class dancing?
Oh gosh, yes, I still remember my first ever pair of ballet flats. They had bunnies on the inside. Could not let go of them, even if I bore holes into them. But I think I danced around 12 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's a good long time. And now you are a San Francisco Ballet fan.
Of course. Big fan of Frances as well.
Oh, yeah. So this is an exciting show for you to be on.
Just a little bit.
Okay, you got to keep it together. You got to stay calm a little bit. Okay.
I'll try. I'll keep the screaming to a minimum.
Yeah, Frances, when I asked Catherine to come on, she was pretty excited to come on. So we're both excited to have you here. And that's our special guest. She first came to the city. Now I'm allowed to say this, right? Mm-hmm. Was it 21 years ago?
21 years.
Oh man, and you were it's a long time. Yeah, you were literally a kid, I think. Were you just out of high school at that point?
I graduated from high school and I flew here a few days after my exams.
Oh man. Okay, we'll get more into your story in a minute, but yeah, it's been a couple decades, Frances. I can't believe that. And so Frances Chung is a principal dancer with the San Francisco Ballet and has been for the last 20 years. So welcome to the podcast, Frances. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. We're super excited. And I believe you just closed out another season.
Yes, we finished the day before Mother's Day, or actually, that's not true. Our very last day of the season was Mother's Day, but I finished a day before.
So is it just your body gets to relax a little and your mind a little?
Yes, I have a few summer dancing plans, but nothing as physically strenuous as being in the season here in San Francisco. But I have a little break.
Yeah, good. And so let's get into your history a little bit. With Frances, there are too many accolades to talk about them all, but let's start when you were a kid. Let's go back to British Columbia. Is that where the story starts? You were born in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And you started dancing with the Go Ballet Academy in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Were you one of those 3-year-olds in a tutu and flats with bunnies on the inside?
Pretty much. I started dancing when I was 5 years old. I say this often, but my parents, I guess, were typical Asian parents. They put their 2 daughters in ballet classes and piano classes. Yeah, I think kind of just to keep us out of trouble, when we had free time.
Yeah. I mean, well, all of us do that, right? So I put my kids in ballet class, but were you different? Like when I looked at the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds dancing, I mean, they're all okay, right? But did you stand out at all when you were a kid, or were you just like one of the kids?
I don't think I was any different than any other 3-year-old in class. But I remember clearly that my favorite thing about going to dance class was not what was happening inside the studio, but outside of the studio when I would get to eat snacks and play cards with my friends.
Okay, so that was the real motivation, is the in between.
Exactly.
Snacks do provide a really great incentive.
Exactly.
So at what point did you kind of make a decision, when you're dancing, you're doing like Saturday classes or something like that? And then at what point did you get into the performance track, or maybe the one that's a little more serious?
I believe I was maybe 12, was the first time I got a trophy at a local competition. So yeah, I remember winning a trophy for the first time and being like, oh, I must be good at this. And then I kind of went onto the serious track when I started high school. I don't know if you know McGee Secondary. Obviously not. It's a Canadian school. All of a sudden, I just was brought back to. Maybe it's because I've known you for so long.
Yeah.
Like, surely you knew me when I was in high school too. But no, that was even longer ago.
I was nodding like I did. I wanted you to feel like I did, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a public school in Vancouver that has a special program. It's a sport art kind of half-day program. So I went to school until noon every day. And then my ballet buddies and I would take the bus to our ballet school. And then we would have like multiple ballet classes and then rehearsals for upcoming performances or competitions or what have you. But that was kind of when I guess things kind of became a little bit more serious.
Yeah. So it's getting to be like 3 hours a day at that point, or
3 hours a day, 6 days a week, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a lot of commitment, I think. And I've heard stories of how parents kind of push, but it sounds like you just kind of enjoyed it and did it. And it didn't feel like, like extreme sacrifice or anything at your age, at that age. Yeah.
If anything, actually, I always feel amazed that my parents were very supportive of me pursuing ballet as a career, because it's a young career. Most professional ballet dancers don't go to college. And I think there's this conception that Asian parents are not going to support kids in the arts, or you're not going to become a doctor and lawyer or a lawyer. Then,
right. Yeah.
And my parents didn't know anything about ballet either. The whole world of ballet was new to them and new to me. So we were kind of learning as we went along.
Yeah. So when did San Francisco come calling? Did they scout you or did you have to audition?
Generally, you audition for companies. So my last year, I probably went on some tours with my school. My school was also really great about getting us as many performances as possible, and we would tour with my school to China. We toured to Japan, so they offered incredible opportunities. And then as I was about to graduate high school, I sent out audition videos. One company being San Francisco Ballet. I think I actually also came here. Yes, a ballet mistress. They're called ballet mistresses or ballet masters, which basically means coach. Who was a coach in San Francisco Ballet at the time. She came to my school in Vancouver and set a Balanchine ballet called Serenade. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's a classic. The music is beautiful. My son loves the music, actually. But anyway, so she came to my school and set Serenade, and she kind of like picked me out and was like, "Oh, you should come and audition for San Francisco Ballet." So I went into came here and took class with San Francisco Ballet. And then I also sent probably 10 VHS tapes at the time. To different companies in America and in Canada. And then I got an offer to Boston Ballet again. And just as I was about to sign that contract, San Francisco Ballet called. And so this is just like I'm just like being totally honest here. I really just didn't know anything about anything in the ballet world. And the only reason I chose San Francisco Ballet was because the pay was a little bit higher.
It's a little closer to home.
It's a little closer to home. Yeah. Which is like probably, it's slightly embarrassing to say because, I feel like these days anyway, I see look at the dancers and they seem to know everything about the ballet world and what they should be doing and what they should be eating. And
well, when the period we're talking about, the internet was like a baby, just a baby little thing. And, like there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't, a million places you can get this information. You had to know someone, right?
This is true. That is very true. And that's true. YouTube is incredible. You can look up any ballet on YouTube now and watch it. And all I had back then was a VHS tape of American Ballet Theater. Right. This one performance that they had on VHS, and I would watch that over and over again.
So then that's when we met. You came down to San Francisco and we bumped into each other. And so you became part of the Corps de Ballet. 2001. So you're dancing in a big group. Is it your dream job? Is it like everything that you had hoped it was, or was it a lot different than you thought it would be?
Well, I'm not sure. Like I said, I really didn't know anything about the ballet world. I was just kind of like between my parents and I, it was like blind leading the blind. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. like I said, all the kids these days, they know what's healthy. They know what to do with their bodies. I was eating honey bunches of oats, maybe 2 to 3 meals a day.
Best food ever.
All the vitamins, and minerals. What more do you need? It tastes delicious.
Oh man.
It was hard. I remember crying, and probably like the first few months were the hardest. I was a pretty shy kid. I didn't have my close core friends anymore. So I joined this new company and like, it's nothing like I knew. Obviously we all have ballet in common, and I love the art. And when I first came here, I think it was quite hard. I don't remember too much about it. I think I have this thing where, I think all of us have this thing where you just don't remember the bad stuff, right?
Yeah.
All you remember is the good times. But no, I think I'd say like the first few months were the hardest, but I'd say up until like, I didn't feel completely, at home until maybe my third year in the company in San Francisco.
Joining at such a young age, what was it like? Can you describe like a typical day in your life in the corps de ballet?
Day in a life in the corps de ballet. First of all, that was a long time ago. Well, so let's see. Back then I lived in Daly City. So I would commute on the BART in the morning. And back then my body didn't hurt like it does now. So I would get to work at the latest possible time and be totally fine, dancing without warming up and, living my best life physically. A typical day really is if we're not in performance season, we start class at 10. We have class every morning from 10 to 11:15. It's optional, but it's really a necessity if you want to have a good day, but also a long-lasting career, to take class every day. And then we would go into hours of rehearsal. Some days, if you're not in the ballets that are not being rehearsed, then you have no rehearsals at all. And then some days, if you're in all the ballets, then you work 6 hours a day. That's a typical rehearsal day. And then if we're in performance, then we work from 2 to 5 hours. We rehearse 2 to 5 hours a day. And then you have a few hours before the show to, eat, rest, warm up again. And then you have the show that starts either at 7:30 or 8 o'clock until 10:30 or so, 10:30.
Oh my goodness. That's a 12-hour workday, just on your feet. Go.
And off. Yeah. The ballet doesn't count the hours you're not, in the studio or on stage, but yeah, you're at work all day. And when we're in performance season, we're there 6 days a week. We have Mondays off, 2 shows a day on Saturdays. But yeah, back when I was in the corps, I would do that and then be done with the show at 10:30, take the BART home. And that was a long time ago.
Something I've always loved watching, whether it's Swan Lake or Giselle, is the corps de ballet. And I've always just admired their ability to not just, stand in these beautiful, elegant positions, but also do the really hard dances. So did you find it more challenging to be a part of the corps or as a soloist?
That's a great question. So actually, when I do remember this, when I first joined the company, it was difficult. I had to learn a lot. There are a lot of things I'll still remember. If you're standing in a line and it has to be in a diagonal, your chest has to be at the person in front of you's shoulder, different things like that. Or like, when you're dancing in the corps, not only do you have to look great on your own as an individual and do the steps properly, but then you're also minding the spacing so that, especially in something like Swan Lake, you're dancing and the formation is changing. And so, the person in the back might have to move 6 feet and then the person in the front only moves 2 feet, but you're doing the exact same steps. I think one thing that you probably don't realize also is that when you're standing after you've danced in something, I think Swan Lake might be one of the hardest corps de ballet full lengths, but they do a lot of standing on stage while the principals are dancing after they've danced a lot. So if you're young, like I was in the corps when I first joined the company, and we did Swan Lake. We took it on tour several times, and then we performed it here in San Francisco a lot. When you're 17, it's not so bad. But, some dancers have been in the corps 5-10 years.
Oh.
When you're a little bit older, obviously your body changes and things take more care, and yeah, standing and dancing into standing is nobody's business. It is difficult. Your feet cramp. I mean, it hurts no matter what age you're at, really. But yeah, and really to hold yourself in one position, your upper body and your lower body, and generally you're standing on one foot and in a point shoe for that matter. Anyway, all that to say is that the corps de ballet, we wouldn't have amazing full lengths without the corps de ballet. So they deserve all the credit.
Yeah, it seems like the name is perfect because it really is the body and the soul of the ballet.
That is true.
And I think a lot of people don't quite fully appreciate, like you had mentioned, how much effort it takes to stand beautifully in one position for nearly 3 minutes and then proceed to move on as if nothing ever happened. But it really just frames the entire story. So
I'm going to clap a little harder for the corps next time I go to the ballet. So, Frances, you were promoted to a soloist in 2005 and then a principal dancer in 2009. One thing that I'm always kind of curious about is there's kind of a hierarchy, right? There's the principals, dancers, and then there's soloists, and then there's corps. Is it a strange mix? Like you said, you're friends with all these people. Is it a strange mix of camaraderie and competitiveness as you're kind of in this together, but at the same time, some get promoted and some don't? So how do you manage that relationship?
I think it's changed over the years. In general, there's a good sense of healthy competition in the dancers, but also at the same time, I don't know, like that competition is inspiring. You watch another dancer and you want to be as good as them. Or, when I was in the corps, obviously I looked up to all the soloists and principals. Like I said, when I first didn't know anything about the world, I was like, oh yeah, I'd be so happy just being in the corps. And then obviously I was in the corps for a few years and I was like, no, I'm ready to start doing more featured roles or what have you. But yeah, it's competitive. You're constantly just trying to be better. If anything, you're competing with yourself from a year ago or 2 years ago or 10 years ago. And just for example, this time around was this last few performances of Swan Lake. It was my third time kind of tackling this role of Odette and Odile. And for me personally, it was just, I needed to be better than when I first debuted this role. And it was such a different journey. And, my confidence was completely at a different stage than it was, years ago. But then still, you're not happy. I think, most dancers are, after a performance, I think it went well. I'm proud of what I accomplished. However, it could have been even better. So I don't know. If anything, you compete with yourself.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about Swan Lake a lot, but do you have any particular memories of a performance that really stood out to you? And do you prefer more classical pieces or more modern and contemporary ones?
I think classics are important for a ballet dancer because nothing will get you in the physical shape of doing classical ballet. So I'm always grateful to have the opportunity to perform classics like Swan Lake, like Giselle, like Don Quixote, anything in like a white tutu. It's just so revealing. So no matter what, it just has to look a certain way. I guess there is a standard for it. So, and a lot of people know the standard. Right. And so there's expectation. However, in the 20 years of being a part of San Francisco Ballet, we've gotten to do so many different types of works. And I love anything by William Forsythe. Yeah, I'll dance anything by him. I really love a lot of Liam Scarlett's works. I love Justin Peck's works. These are all just different choreographers that I think they resonate with a lot of ballet dancers, but I think a lot of it has to do with their sense of musicality, their knowledge on dance, and then also just their like creative powers in their minds.
Yeah.
How they've come up with movements that's so individual to them, and it just resonates with people. So, and dancers, resonates with the audience as well as dancers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how much thought these choreographers put into, not just the big picture, but every detail down to the placement of your hand or, the positioning of your foot. So it's always just incredible to see. And I feel like the SF Ballet does an incredible job of kind of pushing those boundaries of creativity. And watching that come to life is always just mind-blowing to me.
It's so nice to hear when like an audience member kind of has those perspectives on just the little details. Because quick story, but we were doing Liam Scarlett's Frankenstein, and he was coaching me on this pas de deux with my partner. And this pas de deux means a dancer for two, or a dance for two. What is the pas de that pas de deux specifically is like, it's a love pas de deux, if you will. But I think at that moment, I'm like yearning for his love. And I remember specifically Liam just showing me this hand gesture in rehearsal. And he was like, if you flip your hand here slowly at this particular moment in this point in the music, that is going to make us feel your desire or your yearning. And it was so like and then he demonstrated it, and I was like, my mind blew. I was like, yes, that's it. And it just took that like little flip of the hand as I was walking towards my partner. Little things like that. I guess that's at this point in my career anyway, those are the things I really like cherish.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's the most subtle, understated gestures that make all the difference in the world.
Truth.
And I guess on that note, do you have a favorite or strange or noteworthy or super memorable performance?
It's so hard. It's hard to come on the spot with these moments. I mean, I've fallen on stage. That's, I guess, noteworthy. I think I can't remember if I was a soloist at this point or if I was in the corps. But my partner, like, he put me down a little too soon before my foot was on the ground, and I basically just, my feet did not touch the ground, and I just like slipped onto, it was this like, it was a Mark Morris ballet. It was a really quiet, like scene in the ballet, and it was just like smack on the ground, and I could hear all, I don't know how many thousands of people are opera house. Yeah. Everybody's like, and then I got up and continued.
Like the pro that you are. Yeah. That's the thing about live theater, anything can happen.
Yeah, I always think though that falling is not a bad thing. It means that you were giving it your all. So anytime someone falls, often as dancers, we just clap for them because they did it. They gave it their all, and they're on the ground. And then you get up and you continue, and it all is well. So yeah, I never really think that falling is a bad thing.
Well, and it reminds us as the audience too that you're human, and that this is live and this is imperfect, and
Yes.
You're not robots. We're not watching a movie. It's interesting. Yeah.
Definitely. And I was so surprised when I learned that, you have a beautiful 3-year-old child and, the duration of your career is just so incredible. So, I mean, I'm 22 years old and I feel like I'm already suffering from a lot of back pain. So, what are your tips, secrets to staying healthy and just staying active?
Oh, the secrets, there are no secrets. You get up with back pain or neck pain, and then you just slowly warm up. At this point, yeah, I actually, in the last few years, kind of through the pandemic, I've learned a lot about stretching. So I spend a lot of time outside of work. You know how I mentioned before that I used to get to work as late as possible? Now I get to work. Well, first of all, after having a kid, you wake up at 6 instead of whatever time I used to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up at 6, Forrest, my son, and I, and sometimes John, if he's awake, will have breakfast. And then I drop him off at daycare. And then I can get to work probably about an hour and a half before class begins now. So I spend a good deal of time stretching and rolling. And I just found out recently that I am now known among some of the younger dancers as the gal who carries around like a bag full of tools that I roll with, or I dig, or I got my TheraBand. I got, things to work out my calves and my feet, and little balls to roll my feet, different size balls to roll my calf.
Oh my gosh.
I've become that person.
Like a walking gym.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And I try to convince them. I swear I used to come to class 2 minutes before it starts. Yeah. You learn, I think, it's anybody, whether you're a dancer or not, what your body needs and is capable of. I guess as a dancer, we kind of push it to the limit. Mm-hmm. And this season, actually, I was injured for a while, which a part of it was probably COVID kind of taking off a lot of time that I would have never done. I think I took more time. I know I took more time off because of COVID than I did even with my pregnancy. When I was pregnant, I would go into class every day still, kind of had like a general idea of what I wanted to do kind of post baby. So I came back fairly quickly, which, everybody is different. And that was just my kind of journey back to the stage. But I came back after 4 months after Forrest was born. I was performing the Nutcracker. Yeah, I was still breastfeeding. I was pumping in between, like intermission.
Oh man,
motherhood and ballet. It's such an incredible thing. And like, luckily, I had friends who had babies and came back to dance, so I had an idea of what it would be like. And, like you said earlier with the internet, you see what dancers have done in the past and what is possible. So yeah, I loved every moment of it. But anyway, fast forward through COVID, I, tried to stay in shape. But then it got to a point where we had no idea when we were going to go back to work. Yeah. Nobody knew what was happening. And so I was like, well, I will just stay home and hang out with my kid. And it was great. I had such a great time. But then once we fully came back to the season, we had a virtual season, which really is nothing compared to our regular season. But we had a full regular season this year, and my body was just like could not keep up really. And I had foot pain that just didn't go away. And then finally it got to a point where I like couldn't go on point anymore. So yeah, I had to take 4 months off, which, like I said, in, I don't know, 18, 19 years, I hadn't been off for that long really because of an injury. But it was a really great learning experience. And I learned a lot about my body during that time, and about my foot, about my left leg, about my psoas, about my glute, about that. I mean, your body is an incredible thing, and it's all connected. And yeah, I feel, yeah, at this point, like I said, I'm so grateful that I had a long career with no injury. And even with this injury, like I got to stay home with my kid again. So it really was, there's a lot of silver lining.
Lots of silver linings,
anyway, yeah, I got back to the season, and back when I was injured, I did not think I was going to be able to make it to Swan Lake. I thought maybe I could do something, some of the shorter ballets that were on this season, which I was happy to do, but I did not think that I would be able to actually perform Swan Lake, and I made it there. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so inspiring.
So you're currently, and since 2018, you've been the Herbert Family Principal Dancer at the San Francisco Ballet. What's the future look like for Frances Chung? Have you thought much about next season already, or are you thinking a little out in the future?
At this point, it's hard to say. My really close friend, Sarah Van Patten, just retired this year. She joined the company a year after me. Yeah, at this point, I mean, I still love dancing, of course, and I definitely want to do it for a little while longer. But to be honest, it gets harder every year. And then, yeah, I think it'll just get to the point where I may not be worth it anymore in terms of like work-life balance, but also like work pain balance.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't entirely know. I used to say that once I was done with dance, I would want to do something completely different because I spent all of my life in the ballet world. However, now that I am nearing the end of my career, it's hard to think that I will leave the world. So there are things I think I would still enjoy doing in the ballet world, but we'll see what the future holds.
So you have answered all of our hard questions. Now it's time for the lightning round. First question, what's the best part about being a ballet dancer?
Best part? Oh, there's too many.
You can do more than one if you want.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is the friendships that I've made. Yeah, friendships. And the ballet world is quite transient. People change companies, they move to different parts of the world, they retire and they change careers completely. But like I said earlier, these bonds that you make with other dancers or former dancers, they don't change. You don't see someone for many years and then you see them again and it's like time has not passed. And yeah, you have all of the memories kind of made in the studios and the theater, and those relationships definitely don't change. And then of course, just I guess that thrill of a live performance.
Yeah. With thousands of people, eyes on you. Yeah.
It's crazy because I think before a lot of ballets, especially the really difficult full-length ballets where you're leading the show all night long, before a show like that, I'm always thinking, God, why in the world do I do this to myself? You know, you're like sick, you're nauseous from nerves,
Oh, wow.
you can't eat. Well, leading up to it, maybe there are nights where, like the night before, you can't sleep. Yeah, your whole body is just like it's either in like hibernation mode because you know you're going to be exerting a lot of energy. So you're yawning all day for no good reason. Or you're just in like, you're like in this like tingly state where you're just like, you're just so nervous.
Adrenaline,
that you
yeah.
feel anything. And then of course, after the show, you're super, thrilled and happy. And then maybe like 10 minutes after that, you're like, well, I could have done this and this.
The stages, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cycle that, and it's a love-hate thing, I guess. Yeah. I really don't know why we do it to ourselves.
It's definitely unlike anything else in the world, I'm sure, and you do something that very few people can do. So it's pretty amazing.
Can I toss in a
Sure.
separate question?
Sure.
How many point shoes do you think you've gone through?
Oh, gosh.
Thousands, right?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, yes. Because I can wear out a pair in one day, one long rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
And then there are some shoes that last for longer and you can make last longer, but yeah, probably thousands. Gosh, that seems like a lot.
That does seem like a lot. Yeah. That's amazing.
Alrighty. I guess on to the other question, but do you have a favorite fictional or non-fictional book, movie, or show that has a ballet dance in it?
Oh, ballet dance. I mean, everybody knows the ballet movies.
No, but what is your favorite?
Oh, my favorite. I don't know. I can't really say that. It's funny because if you ask another dancer, they'd probably have one immediate answer for you. I just like, I'm not, they call them bun heads, and I just can't be a bun head.
Fair enough. Catherine, do you have one?
This is going to sound so childish, but I loved and still love to this day the 12 Dancing Princesses, the Barbie version.
Legit.
I thought you were going to say center stage or something like that.
No. I just love the whole idea of like dancing and then transporting yourself to a magical world. Like, I would love that.
Awesome. That's totally legit. Yeah.
I think when you're in the season, you're working 6 days a week, you're surrounded by dance all the time, you're in the ballet world. Like the last thing I want to do is go home and watch a ballet movie.
True.
Even though I've seen them all.
I got one for you. Do you guys watch Korean dramas at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so there's one that my wife likes. I thought it was just okay, but the dancing I heard is pretty good. Now, of course, you won't think so, Frances, probably, but it's called Angel's Last Mission.
I've heard of that one.
Oh, I don't know this one. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, look it up. I think it's on Viki if you have Viki. But it's classic Korean drama. So a girl loses her sight, right? She's a dancer, loses her sight. Her, longtime family butler guy donates his corneas to her. It's like classic, like classic nutball drama, right? But I heard the dancing is pretty good. So
what is it called again?
It's called Angel's Last Mission.
Angel's Last Mission.
And the ending totally ruined it, but give it a watch. Give it a watch. You might like it. All right, this last question it's called Who's Your Infatuasian? And an infatuasian is anyone who is Asian that you might admire, someone you might know, someone you may not know. Could be deceased or living, up to you. So Frances Chung, who is your infatuasian?
I mean, I'm going to keep it in the dance realm, but I'd say the Asian dancers that came before me. So in our company, Tan Yuan Yuan's been in the company for 25
wow.
plus years now.
Wow.
And yeah, I've looked up to her ever since I was a student in the school. Her and I actually share ballet coaches. She trained in Shanghai with my teachers, and then my teachers actually immigrated to Vancouver. And then I was lucky enough to train with them when I kind of became more serious about ballet in my school. Yeah, I've looked up to her ever since I was a kid. And yeah, there are multiple other Asian ballerinas that, I think it's true for anything. When you see someone who looks like you doing what you want to do, it gives you just that possibility to be able to dream about doing that same thing. So,
well, I'm 100% sure that there are people who've seen you dance. Young Asian girls, young Asian anyone, right, who's watched you dance and said, maybe I can do that. So that's pretty cool that you've been able to do that for so long.
Yeah, it's so inspiring.
Have you seen the landscape change? When you first came in 2001 versus now, Europeans have always been in ballet, but have you seen the landscape change in terms of diversity and what countries people are coming from, and as well as the audience, maybe even?
Definitely audience. And yes, I'd say so. I mean, it's a slow change. I think by the time I entered the company, there were several Asian dancers in San Francisco Ballet. And I think especially in San Francisco and in San Francisco Ballet, our director, Helgi, he does this thing where he'll go to different places in the world and kind of search out dancers.
Oh, wow.
And he's always hired people from all over the world. So yeah, I've always had, there's always been the company's always been very multicultural. We have a lot of Spaniards, a lot of people from South America, different Asian countries, Japan, Korea. Yeah, there was actually a funny moment. It's less so now, but I think there were more non-Americans than there were Americans in the company at one point.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So yeah, I've always been lucky enough to be surrounded by kind of a multicultural environment.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, tonight you are our infatuation, Frances. It's been so fun talking with you. And a huge thanks to you, Frances, for coming out.
My pleasure.
And Catherine, thank you for coming out. Sorry your internet's a little spotty.
Well, thanks for letting me tag along and let me fangirl.
Oh, no, it's fun having you. So this episode's probably coming out in June, which you know what that means. It's time to wish Catherine luck in the Miss California competition, June 25th.
Oh, gosh. Now I feel like there's a deadline, but thank you.
No, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun no matter what, right?
Yes. There to grow and have a good time.
All right. So everybody root for Catherine in Miss California. So good luck to you. And hey, everyone out there, thank you for listening. We hope you learned something. That's one of our goals of this podcast, is that you learn something every week. And as we always mention, you can write to us at infatuationpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, where you can get it. And you can also leave us a rating. That'd be great. Or a review, even better. But until then, on behalf of Frances, Catherine, and myself, we'll give a shout out to Madison too. Good luck on your AP exam, Madison. But we hope that you're all happy, healthy, and safe out there. Thanks again for listening, and bye.
Bye.